Welcome to the Booktrovert Babes podcast, where two friends decided to bring our dramatic conversations about books here for your entertainment. I'm Rubik's mom of 5 and a baby reader just entering my book era.
And I'm Taylor, a mom of 2 and a well-seasoned book era veteran. Today, we're just doing a cute little check-in. How our Januaries went, how we're hoping our Februaries will go. Did anyone cross anything off of their bookish resolutions list? I did. How did your January go?
I think I killed it.
I think you killed it.
I think I killed it. I have been super antisocial.
Yes.
But my book numbers went up. I'm so proud of myself for that.
How did your sleeping hours do in January?
Actually, I've actually been sleeping more.
Oh, well, because that one weekend you were not sleeping.
No, yeah, that one weekend I
that one week, sleep. The weekend before the Onyx Storm release.
I don't know. My schedule's been weird. Like, I have these moments where, like, I have been sleeping just at the wrong time.
Yes.
Like, my plan is to read or lay down for 30, 45 minutes. I'll even tell my family, wake me if I have not gotten up. If I fall asleep, wake me in an hour. Don't let me sleep. Nobody listens. Either that or they try to wake me and it just doesn't work. I don't know. Both things have been claimed. But yeah, I end up sleeping and then waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
No.
And then
I'm
me. Up for the morning.
If I were to text you because I woke up at 2 a.m., I'm pretty sure you would call like my local hospital to have them come check on me. Couldn't be me.
Like, what do you mean? Are you good?
No. If I'm waking up at 2 a.m., no. I'm not good.
For a while, though, it was consistent. Like, even if I was not going to bed until like 10 or 11, for some reason, I was waking up at like 3 a.m. every single night, no matter what.
That's insane. And you also have a child who's going through beautiful little sleep regressions that we black out. I feel like when our children hit certain ages, we black out those stages of life. And then you have a friend or you have another child and you're like, oh yeah, sleep regressions are a thing. Forgot about those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
I'm starting to sleep train and stuff, and which means I am actually, the audiobooks have been perfect for that because I just put my headphones on and I put her into bed, tuck her in, and I walk out and I literally stand right outside her door just with my audiobook and my headphones. And then she crawls out of the crib and she opens her door and I'm standing right there and I just pick her up, put her back in bed. We do that dance for like 45 minutes.
I just sleep trained my youngest because he finally transitioned out from the crib to the bed, as you know. And the way I did it with my oldest, I was like, I'm just going to do this with my youngest because I only need to do this for like 2 to 3 weeks. And then they were bed trained. So the first week I lay with you until you fall asleep. The next week I lay with you for 1 hour. Whether you're asleep or you're awake, I'm out of there after an hour. And then by the third week, it's tucking you in, saying goodnight, I walk out. So I was just doing a ton of audiobooks during the sleep training transition for my youngest. I actually want to say that's how I did my first read of the year, because my first read of the year was our TBR Titties group chat book club thing. And that was a beefy book for that series, and it had a free audiobook, and I was like,
that was Nightfall.
Yep, that was the beefiest of that series. And I was like, I'm sleep training a 3-year-old. We're gonna audiobook this one.
What an interesting book to listen to.
What an interesting audiobook. There were some scenes.
That's like, a choice right there.
There were some times where I'm like, I'm gonna not listen to this right now, actually. Maybe I'm gonna listen to our own podcast. Maybe I'm gonna throw on like a Spotify playlist. Literally anything else, because I can't, in good conscience, be laying on my children's bunk bed, getting my youngest one to fall asleep, and listening to a dark romance. So a lot of that I got to listen to, because the whole book's not horrible, but there were definitely some moments, we'll say.
I will not listen to those scenes, at least, laying next to my kids or cuddling with my kids at all. Because I have this intense fear of
that they can hear it
and being like, oh yeah, Mom, your headphones weren't as quiet as you thought they were. I refuse to go through that moment, so I will not listen to those when they are snuggling with me. It's gonna be hilarious one day if the boys are like, "Yeah, Mom, we heard everything."
See, and that's why I have this beautiful balance of like 80% are ebooks and only 20% audiobooks. So, and for the most part, I really listen to them like when I'm doing stuff. So they're not even in the same room as me. So, like if I'm in the kitchen, they're in the living room and I'm listening. For now, I'm safe.
How did your January go?
It went wonderfully. January was like a weirdly big month for us. We had a lot of books that came out, or not a lot, but we had some like big ticket books that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had a lot of buddy reads this month. And I do this every single month. I never think I have that many buddy reads. And then someone will text me and be like, okay, are you ready for our buddy read? And I'm like, I'm in the middle of another buddy read. Hold on. Like, I don't know how I black this out. And I do it every single month. But I read 21 books this month.
Woo!
I know. I was very proud of that because last January, I always slump in Januaries because it's a hefty month with like stuff of like the kids are transitioning, going back into school. It's my birthday. It's my sister's birthday. Coming down from like the holiday buzz, and it's just a weird month. But for some reason this month I was into it. And of those 21 books that I read, 11 of them were fantasy.
I am so proud.
Thank you so much.
I am so proud of you.
Technically one wasn't like fantasy. I think it was more sci-fi.
Which one?
It was called I'm Not Your Pet. It was about an alien. I think like Ice Planet Barbarian vibes. But
Jesus, Taylor, some of these titles that you like, I don't
listen. It just so happens that was the worst title that I had.
I feel like if there's ever a moment where I'm like, I don't think my eyebrows are working. They're not moving anymore. I just, Taylor, give me 3 titles of books that you read this month. And as soon as they start shooting up to my hairline, I know, yep, they were.
Yeah, you're fine. That was the only bad title one. The rest of them were actually fine. They were very tame titles. We had a couple of buddy reads this month. I think you did all of them but one. We had our Nightfall and Fire Night, and you were catching up with Conclave.
Conclave as well, yeah.
And then I got scammed. I got duped. Whatever you want to go with. So... I was reading the Playing for Keeps series for Mel. It was that hockey series that she had read towards the end of last year that she fell like madly, deeply in love with. And I said, okay, I will read 1 book a month. So I started in December because I was like, I'm going to do 1 a month because when this is over, another series that we love, the end book for that series is coming out the following month. So I'll just pace myself on my hockey romances until I get to this hockey romance. I fell so deeply in love with the second book that I was like, I kind of want to go to the third one. And then, January is not just my birthday month. It's also Mel's birthday month. And her birthday present request of me was to just finish out the series. So I did. I finished out the Playing for Keeps series and I loved it. It was so freaking sweet and so cute. And in fact, one of them, the third book, was my favorite read of the month.
Really?
Yes, it was. So this is the worst part. It was a single mom trope, but there was just something about how perfect he was that it just, as a single mom,
I'm
sucked
sorry,
me in.
You're going to have to repeat this for me. Did you just say that your favorite book of the month is a single mom trope?
Yes. Which is funny because I don't like single dad tropes, and I know I say that, and then I have actually a few that I love, but I still dislike more single dads than I've now grown to like single dads.
Wasn't it last month you were really loving, what was it? What were the tropes that you typically hate that you read last month that you really enjoyed?
The pregnancy trope.
The pregnancy trope, and wasn't there like a nanny one or a single dad one in there too?
I don't remember. What did I read in December? I read 25 books in December. I generally don't remember.
They're all gone now.
It's all gone. Oh yeah, I'm on to a new month. Who was I last month? I don't know. I don't know her.
One of my kids had a winter concert last night. The music class, they do like a spring concert and a winter concert, right? Mm-hmm. And so they've been practicing these songs all school year so far. Right? Mm-hmm. She performed last night. I could not go because 2 of my kids have the flu. I started coming down with it like right before we left. I started feeling really sick. So I was like, I need to stay here. So tonight I asked her, I was like, do you want to sing some of your songs for me? And so that I can hear them. And she starts to sing them a little bit. And then she's like, I can't remember the rest of it. I was like, didn't you
What an
spent
icon.
all school year learning this, and my husband was like, yeah, but she performed it yesterday, so it's gone now.
It's gone. We're done.
Yeah, that tracks, honestly. So
I don't need to know it anymore. It's gone.
Yeah, it's like the books that we read last month. It's like, no, we have a new TBR now. So what did we read last month? Who knows?
Right, because so my favorite book of the month was this one was Unravel Me, which is book 3 of the Playing for Keeps by Becca Mack. And I have it as like, so I got in my book journal, one of the challenges is you put like your favorite book of the month, and then there's like a tier list of like month to month versus to get to your favorite book of the year. So Unravel Me is my favorite book of the month, but don't ask me about it in February. There's a chance I forgot about it. Maybe not, because I truly loved the MMC from this book. He was fantastic. I had, you know what, now that I'm reflecting, I had a lot of fantasy and a lot of hockey. Tracks for me with the hockey, because then
hockey I'm not surprised by, honestly.
I did a lot of hockey. It's fine. But then I finished a series that I had been doing, the Chestnut Hill Spring series, the Yeehaw books that I was reading.
Books. One of my friends was saying that she just got them or just started reading them, and she was like, the Chestnut, and I was like, the Yeehaw books, and she listens to the podcast, so she was like, yes, the Yeehaw series, and I was like, hey.
You know what's funny is I was reading it and I was loving it. There's one massive cringe thing in it that definitely lost points for me when I was doing my rating at the end. Oh. But when I was looking at it and I was talking to other people who have read this one, it's like of 5. A lot of people have it as like their fourth favorite. And I was like, wait, other than that one massively cringe thing, I really liked it. I have it as my 3rd just because the one that I have in 1st and 2nd, like, they're not getting changed. I love them. They're not. But he jumped to 3rd place, so good job. And then of 5. So it was right in the middle. But I thought it was done really well. And honestly, had the other 2 not like just had such solid 1st and 2nd place vibes, he was a strong competitor. I thought it was really good. So I guess I am against the norm with that one. And then I did our buddy read that Kaylee and I finished that we're still waiting for you to finish. Because if you recall, I believe we kept this in our last podcast. Kaylee and I have it scripted. So you need to finish Reckless. Actually, you need to start and finish Reckless, because Kaylee and I have it scripted of how we're going to respond in case of A, B, or C for your responses to things that happen in the book. So I need you to read it. Am I meant
to be texting you like as I'm reading them?
Yes, that's why we have a group chat.
Okay.
That no one's texted in for a couple of days, other than when we figured out what our book club read is for February. Because, we have to find something to do until the last book comes out in April, I want to say. Well, which works. That's why I picked a duology for our February-March, so that way April comes, we can do the last book for this series. And then I crossed off a book off my physical TBR because I'm so productive like that. I did the pairing, which was not at all what I thought it was going to be. The pairing is by Casey McQuiston, who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which you know how I feel about that book. So it wasn't at all what I expected. It was cute, but I think my expectations going in was that I was just going to fall in love with it like I did Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Right.
And it was okay. I didn't really love the characters. Like, I never found an attachment to them where I cared about their journey or I cared about their love story. So it was fine. I did another Emily Henry book. And then we got till about the 17th of the month. And then it was go time. Had to do my Iron Flame reread so I could prepare for Onyx Storm and the shitstorm spiral that book took me on. And I did the same thing I did last time that I said I wasn't going to do. But then I get competitive for some reason. And I read that book in 24 hours. And I was really, really tired the next day because of it. But I read that book in one sitting. Or not one sitting, but like in a 24-hour period.
I think a lot of us did. Like, I did too. I read all 3 of them in one sitting, pretty much.
Yeah, that would be the weekend where you were like, I'm going to read XYZ books. And I'm like, no, that's not possible. There's only 72 hours between here and now. And you're like, I'll make it work. And I said, you need to do XYZ things to keep your life in order. And you're like, what? Who does those things? Not I.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to try and push through and like read them in my own time and not rush. And then one of my best friends, she's not a big reader.
Mhm.
And I had convinced her last year to read Fourth Wing and then Iron Flame. And so because she was getting Onyx Storm on Tuesday, she was like, I feel like since I am reading it on Tuesday, you have to stop what you're doing and read this for me. And I was like, okay, since you're not a reader and you're picking this book up the day it comes out, I'll go with you on that one. That one's fair. Like, you guys say that, and I'm like, y'all read a million books. Like, I knew you were going to read it anyway, but because she was like, I'm waiting for this book to come out and I'm going to read it that day, I was like, okay, fine.
That's so fun. She asked you to do what I just did for you today. Well, yesterday. I did it for you yesterday. You didn't ask me to, but
I didn't ask you to, and I was so excited.
I knew that was my game plan. Well, so when you text the other day and I thought that you had started it, I was ready to kill you. Because I was going to be like, you did not put me on this journey and then start the ending without me. Like, not a chance.
I did not.
So then after the Onyx Storm, I was massively hungover, but I am determined to get my reading streak back into the 500s, or just shy of 500. So I'm determined to beat that and be in the 500s. I had to read something that like wasn't going to mean anything to me. Mm-hmm. What better way than to do my next bucket list or book resolution? I read a nonfiction book.
I know you did.
I read 2 things off of my resolutions. I did a physical book and I did a nonfiction. I read The Woman in Me, which was the Britney Spears biography, and it was the perfect book to read after Onyx Storm, because it was one of those books where like it's so interesting to get her side of all of those crazy things that we grew up seeing in the news about her, but seeing it from her side. But because I'm a millennial and I've been following Britney since the 90s, I knew every single event that she talked about in the book. So it was one of those things that like I could read it and not have to focus too hard, because it's not like I needed to look up and be like, oh, what is she talking about? Like, I know your story, Brittany, free Brittany. So it was such an easy read, and it was the perfect nonfiction book, and it was the perfect book for after Onyx Storm.
I feel like that's equivalent to like, you know, when you are watching a TV show or a movie that's filmed where like near where you live or something like that, and you see it, and you see places, you're like, I know that place. I feel like that's how that feels when you're reading something that you like about.
It's so funny because of where you're from. That's probably more realistic for you. I can only think of one thing that was filmed in an area that's near me, which was the original Jumanji. But like, people don't shoot movies in my state.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can really think of, I mean, I've lived in a couple places, and so like anytime I see anything that's filmed like in Hollywood,
I lied.
Boulevard, I used to live near there in California, so like I'm like, oh, I remember seeing that place. I remember walking down there. I remember doing. Also,
I'm such a liar because so was Hocus Pocus. I literally go to where Hocus Pocus was filmed every single year. So I don't know how Jumanji came to my head first. Probably because location-wise, that one is closer to me. But yeah, Hocus Pocus. But yeah, like, there's parts of it when I watch Hocus Pocus where I'm like, I've been there. I have a photo of me in front of that house. But yeah.
Let me tell you, my husband played the Last of Us game. And then I watched the show with him. And the beginning, like the intro, the beginning of that show is filmed like backwoods kind of Austin. And I used to drive those country roads all the freaking time. And I swear to God, one of the signs I used to pass all the time. So I see that sign and I'm like, oh my God, I've been there. Like, it's breaking out. Like
I've been there.
It's like an elf. Santa, I
know him.
I have those moments, but I feel like that's how I would feel if I was reading something like that Britney Spears book. Like something that I remember the events for. I feel like I'd be like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah. And there were certain things that she talked about that like I remembered happening. And then I didn't know that like there would be a backstory behind it. So it was interesting to read it. So I honestly, it was the perfect book to read after Onyx Storm because of the hangover that had happened because of that damn book.
Yeah.
And then I did a book that had been on my TBR for over a year, which isn't on my resolutions, but part of my book journal as a bingo card, and one of them is to read a book that's been on your TBR for over a year, which was My Dark Romeo by LJ Shen. I didn't really, or Parker S. Huntington and LJ Shen, I think they co-wrote it, but I don't know how I didn't realize it off the name, that it was a Beauty and the Beast and Romeo and Juliet retelling.
Interesting.
And I started reading it and I was like, oh, you're dumb. Like, of course it has like like elements of these things. It's like in the first chapter. But I buddy read this with Mel and she did the same thing. So I didn't feel that bad about being like, is this Beauty and the Beast? And she texted me because I started it before her. So when she started and she texted me, she's like, is this? And I was like, yes, it is. We don't read the back of books. That's on us.
What's it like to read a summary before you read the book?
Yeah, couldn't be.
What's it like to look at the page count before you read a book? Tell us in the comments, because we obviously
we don't. And then I read a book that I need you to read, but I like need you to be nice to me. And if you don't like it when you read it, you can't tell me that you don't like it. But I genuinely think that you'll like it. I
think I owe you one of those.
So here's the thing. It's not a typical book that I would ask you to read. So it's called To Catch a Firefly. It is an MM because, you know, I will not go a month without at least one MM read.
Right.
It takes place in Nebraska, which is also like the first time I've ever read. Like in my brain, I'm like, what the fuck is in Nebraska? Tornadoes, which happened in this book. So that was an interesting thing for me to read because we don't get those here. So like interesting. But one of the characters is autistic and he has selective mutism. And it's like childhood friends to lovers. And it was the sweetest fucking book I think I have read in months. That
sounds pretty damn adorable.
It was so fucking cute. And I didn't give it 5 stars because it wasn't like the plot wasn't mind-blowing and their romance wasn't mind-blowing, but there was just something about it that it's like, it was so good. It was so cute. It was so sweet. So if you wanted to add that to a future TBR, it doesn't have to be like your February TBR, but I don't typically have you read this genre of romance often. I don't know if you've read an MM from me yet.
I don't think so, actually.
But it's just...
I think I have some on my TBR, because like Red, White, and Royal Blue is on my TBR.
Yeah, that would definitely be more Mel. I can hear her listening to this being like, that's my book, and it is. That is more of a Mel rec. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't call it fluffy for To Catch a Firefly because there's negative things to it, obviously, because it's an MM in a very red state, freaking Nebraska. Mm-hmm. So there's some elements with that are brought into it. So I'm not going to call it fluffy because of some bullying aspects, but it's not Archer's Voice 2.0. I promise you it's not that deep, but there's just... I think the representation in one of the characters was done so beautifully. I almost cried, not from like it being sad, but they were just like, I just want to hug this character because like no one else, because the selective mutism and like someone, it's not a spoiler because again, it's right on the book of like his selective mutism that like people are like, why don't you just talk? And there's a moment where he's like, I don't have to talk with him. I was like, sold. I'm ready. Let's do this. It's literally in the first chapter. So it's when they meet. I think they're 7 or 8 when they meet in the first chapter. So it's just this very beautiful little love story that I think you would enjoy. And then the end of the month came and I went ham. My last 6 books I read this month, all fantasy. I have begun the Zodiac Academy, and to anyone who has heard of that series or has read that series knows it's a 24 book series. If you read everything that the authors intend you to read, it's 24 books. If you go based off of just one set, it's still 12 books. So it's like, I am dedicated.
That's one a month.
Well,
or 2 a month.
It was supposed to be 2 a month, and I did 3 because there's a group chat of us of people who are reading Zodiac Academy, and I was behind because they all started it in like November. And I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And now I'm caught up to them because I'm like, there is crack laced into this. I don't because it's not that great. There are some grammatical errors because in the beginning, these were being indie published. So there's not a whole lot of betas and editor. You can tell there's a lot of, I'm not going to say current lingo. I'd say like 4 or 5 years ago lingo and slang happening in the book because they're teenagers. They're 18 I don't know what is laced into these pages, but I'm a fucking junkie for it and I can't stop. Which should tell you how much I love you, because I read, so before I jump to that, I also read Blood of Hercules, which was extremely hilarious and is not talked about enough how fucking funny that book is. And it's very interesting.
Nice.
And I'm very curious to start the next one. Except for it doesn't come out till September. Thanks, Tish, for having us start a duology that she thought was done, and it's not, because the next one doesn't come out till September. Mind you,
Rude.
that is the second one she did to me in 2 months, because we also read the Games Gods Play last month. It's duology. You know when its second book comes out? September. So I'm a little mad at her right now. Because now I have two
on the record.
I have 2 Greek mythology books that I thought were done duologies, and then come to find out, no, they're not.
Yep.
They both end on cliffhangers, and I don't get fucking relief until September.
Gosh.
So, yes. So I went through book 1 of Zodiac, and then I go through book 2, and then I'm on book 3, and then my little bestie on the 28th texts me about how she's reading Demon Tide and was doing something with Demon Tide. And in my head, the way your text was worded, I thought you had started the Dryad Storm, which is the conclusion book to the freaking Black Witch Chronicles. And I, in all caps, went, "Did you start that book without me?" "No, I'm almost done Demon Tide."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, tell me when you're going to start, and I'm going to pause my book." Rewind to what I had just said. The Zodiac Academy is crack, and I'm a junkie. I paused reading that so I could start the Dryad Storm with you. And I feel like we crushed it for buddy read wise. Like, there were a couple of times where one of us was a couple of chapters ahead, and then we were switching because of just mom life. And I think I finished like
we scheduled our breaks pretty good, I think.
Yeah, we did.
We balanced each other out. It was like a tag team situation.
Because I listened slightly faster speed than you, but you weren't that far behind me speed wise. And then we like coordinated for that last part. And I think I had only finished like 2 minutes before you, because you were talking about something and I was like, "Oh, that was only 2 pages ago." So we're right there. Yeah. So, and we finished the Black Witch Chronicles, which is so fun because you waited a whole year for this book. I only waited a month, not even.
I know. I thought about that. Like when we were talking about the way that it ended, I was like, "Listen, I have been waiting a year for this happy ending. You let me have it."
I mean, that's why I didn't argue anything with you, because here's the thing. I think everyone, especially readers, are going to have their attachment series that, like, this is the first series I fell in love with. You are a reader later in life, because most of us, I would say, it's the Harry Potter series, because a lot of us read that as teenagers. Can I separate myself and find the issues? Yes. However, that was the first series that I ever read that I fell in love with. Don't talk smack about my perfect series. It's perfect, minus the author. Fuck her. But for you, it's this series. So that's why I was like, I'm not going to argue with you on how you feel about that ending.
You have to agree that if you take out everything else, like, the message of that book was just beautiful.
Yes. I know you were upset by my rating. However, you knew we were raised very differently. So there are just things that for you had to grow out of very mirror imaging to Ellerin. Whereas for me, I never had that. I've always looked at certain aspects about religion and been like, what the fuck? So for me, I think that's why I don't connect to this series as much as you do, because I'm the Diana of our friendship. I'm very like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, of course that's wrong. So... And yes, I am the Diana, and I'm taking that. You can't argue it.
So, I won't. Yes. I'm letting you have that one. That one's great. That one's great.
Because and I think that was what's so hard for me with the book, is there's so many aspects of it. And I said it to you and you understood too, of like the oppression of women and children and species. Like, there was just a lot.
Well, and that's the thing, is I felt like it wasn't so parallel just with religion. Also, like, our political climate, like our entire world.
That's what I'm saying. The world. But at least they had magic.
Like that. But at least they had magic. But there was a resolution. Like, there was an actual beautiful conclusion. Yes. And it's like it was such a beautiful message. And I was waiting for this whole year to get that closure and that hope for the future moment. And I loved it so much. Never have I ever loved an epilogue like I loved this one.
Mm-hmm.
I know you didn't like it, but
I'm
never have I ever loved an epilogue
person.
like I love this one. I'm not either. I hate epilogues.
But
Every time
that's
I
what
see
I'm saying.
epilogue,
Like the
and
Harry
it's
Potter series,
10 years later, it's like, yeah, nobody cares. But this one, I loved the way they did it. I loved the way that she brought somebody new in, and that we kind of saw literally somebody benefit from what that whole 7 books we went through to achieve. We saw somebody benefit from it. Oh, I cried.
I had a feeling you were going to.
I cried so much.
As soon as some names were popping up, I was like, Rubik's is out.
Yeah, no, I was crying. Even like, not even just this was one of those books, and it's rare for me to have books like this. It was one of those things where just simple statements, simple quotes about, like, you know, love overall, kind of those little things, like just those little conversations. Somebody will say something, and I'm just like, you know, like, just choking up. Like,
I imagine the two. Like, if we were together reading this, instead of like just how we did it, like if we were physically together reading this and someone saw us, they'd be like, are you reading the same book? Because there would be me with resting bitch face just reading my book, and then there would be you having a meltdown.
That's why I so badly wanted to do it, like, on a FaceTime call. I so badly wanted to, and I'm sad that I didn't make us do it, because I don't know when we'll get that chance again.
I will say, you already know, but for one of those ending chapters, my eyes rolled, and I think I lost them for a second in the back of my head.
I know.
You already know which one.
Listen,
because we agreed.
Okay, but also, you read all of these just recently. I have been living with this series for a year, waiting for these moments. So the things that I didn't like the things you didn't like, I didn't like them all either. But I think there
were really only 2 things that I am like standing my ground on not liking.
Yeah, and that's fine. But those things I didn't like either, but I was like, I'm keep going. I gotta keep going.
I think, you're definitely more forgiving.
I don't know why honestly, I'm sad that this series is not talked about as much as I feel it should be.
Have you seen the reviews for the last book?
More. Yes, I have.
They're not that good, and I'm like, wait,
there are some that are really good.
There are, but because I think it's like a 3.4 is what it's sitting at right now, which is the lowest one of the series. And I was like, wait, I am not a diehard for this, and I can even say the last book is not the worst book in the series.
But when I was reading and like digging for what other people said, like reading through the reviews, I realized she was taking audience requests basically for the last 2 books.
I was gonna say, I just feel like if I had made a bingo card before starting Black Witch with all of those tropes that I pulled when I made that trope tier list, I would have a blackout.
Yeah.
I would have a blackout. She said, bet, I'ma collect them all. I'm a Pokemon catching.
Pokemon master.
Truly. And then I did read one other fantasy, and I feel really bad because
Hold on, wait, before we go there, now that it's done.
Yes.
Overall, what did you think?
The first half, yes, worth reading. She lost me in the last half. The last book was better than I had hoped. It was still a lot of and we agreed on this, there's a lot of things that were extremely disappointing about certain endings.
Yeah.
But I did come back. I mean, I gave it a much higher rating than I gave the last book. The last book, I struggled through that one.
The series is rough.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was all the way around. But I don't know. I am more forgiving in this, that I feel like it's one of those things kind of like Lord of the Rings or Marvel Avengers. Like, there is a level of like beneficial to knowing all of the side characters that end up coming together in the end. Like, you kind of know where they're coming from. I liked it. I feel like more expanded world, which I
think the thing that threw me the most is I fell in love after bitching about how many characters there were in the first book. I genuinely fell in love with a lot of those characters from the first book. And then I feel like she forgot about 70% of them. And we just didn't focus on them anymore. And I think that's my biggest grievance is she made me love certain characters and then they were gone. And then we did not talk about them again. And then they got very tiny snippets, even in the last book, that I just feel unsatisfied of, like, why put me through that first book and then I never see them again? And like, until the very end where it's kind of like, well, what about they're back at the ranch? Why do I have all these other people who I only just met either in Demon Tide or this? Like, what about my BBs? So I'd say overall, it's like a 3.75 series for me. And that's because it had me in the first half. And just my issues with the last one and just how much I hated the fourth one. But like 3.75, I round up. So like 4. It's a 4.
Okay, I'll take it.
But
I'm going not with 4.5. It wasn't perfect for me either.
No.
I walking away, like stripping it down to brass tacks, is that message was just absolutely beautiful. And I felt like she executed the message really, really well. And I loved that epilogue, and I was not expecting to. I thought that epilogue was going to be shit, and especially when like the last chapters, it was kind of like, are these all epilogues?
When we text each other, we were like, I feel like this whole last part is just everyone gets an epilogue. And then we like, I could see that last one, because we were doing the Fable book review thing, I could see the last one was labeled epilogue, but I was like, all of these chapters feel like epilogues, but okay.
Yeah, I know. But and I, when we were going through those chapters, I was like, I'm gonna hate this epilogue. Maybe I should just skip it. But then I saw a name that I didn't recognize, and I was like,
I'm not gonna lie, I saw a name I didn't recognize, and I was like, Lori, don't do this to me. Because every time someone new got introduced, my brain immediately went to, have I met you and I just forgot? So
anyway, okay.
Then the other book I read a little bit before that, but I saved, is because I feel really bad about it. So you know that I'm rekindling my love for fantasy.
Yes.
And even though I did a lot of bitching while we did the Black Witch Chronicles together, overall I still enjoyed the series. I had a lot of emotions evoked, which is not something you can typically say of a lot of books, where almost every single emotion you can have is pulled out of you from a read. However, I think I have found my line that I'm just not going to do it. I read the Book of Azrael. I had seen such amazing reviews. I think it's like a 4.4 on Goodreads. People love it. Kaylee loved it. Kaylee, I think, gave it like a 4.75.
Wow.
I gave it a 2, and this is why.
Hold on. Sorry. I need to recover from that. That's gonna hurt so bad.
And you know how rare I give out anything less than a 3, because this is the same process of why it's so hard for me to DNF. This author spent time creating this world, creating these characters. She gave me a gift by giving me this book to read. So automatically you get 2 stars because you wrote a book. I felt so bad because it wasn't bad. It just wasn't. It wasn't for me. I'm breaking up with the book. Because I feel so bad, because I know how many people love it.
My child breaking up with the Fourth Wing right now.
So I just think if I'm going to be reading something in the fantasy realm, I cannot read modern fantasy. When a character is a badass, she's a wyvern. She's like the scariest creature on the fucking planet. She's 1,000 years old, and she's texting, or she's ordering an Uber, but she can fucking fly. And the world knows about them. It's not like she's a secret. Like, I hate it. I do not want my...
Was it like the I just want a normal life trope or something?
Nope. It was this weird mixture of old fantasy people who, like, stay away from modern tech, and then fantasy living within, like, the normal... Like, it was the weirdest, to me, not well done mixing of modern with old-time fantasy, and that it didn't work for me. And then I felt like the author really dragged out certain things. And this is what's crazy, is I see people who love this book, and in their reviews have even said they almost DNF'd in the first 40%.
So here's my question.
Like, it was so...
Why did you not DNF? Like,
it was my family's book club book.
Oh.
I was obligated to finish. I genuinely was going to, because my sister and my cousin and then our friend who's in our book club, they all liked it. They all gave it a really good review. One of them even ran to the second book. Mind you, this is a 7-book series. I'm not doing this again. I'm done with massively long series. A Zodiac Academy has my life for the year. No more. My mother, I hadn't seen anything on any of her books apps. So I called her. I was like, Mom, what do you think of our book club read? She also hated it. I was like, oh, thank God. So I was like, I can't leave my mom hanging because I can't bitch about a book unless I finished it. If I DNF it, I feel as though I don't have the right to bitch about it because I didn't finish it.
Right.
So truly, by the time this airs, we're having our book club meeting on Saturday. Or tomorrow. So by the time this goes live, we'll already have had our book club. I could not leave my mother behind. So Mom, you're welcome that I sacrificed and I didn't DNF this book for you. I can't wait for book club because I'm going to really go into it with them because it doesn't work for me. And this is why I know I'm never going to read the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, because I know that that's the same thing. It's a mixture of her fantasy that we are so used to, but in the modern world and their cell phones and their texting and their door dashing and Uber, like I can't do it. No.
Which is funny because we already had that with, honestly, that whole in ACOTAR, like the notes, like that was basically texting. Like
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Other ways.
For me, that's the thing is like,
and that was a creative way, I thought, to like the text conversations, the flirty texts and stuff, like through the little notes that disappear and show up, and that was great.
But it's like I don't want to read something with anything modern. If I'm reading fantasy, they need to be fishing. They need to be foraging.
Yeah.
They need to be dirty because there's no plumbing. Like, I don't want to read your easy amenities life. Like, no, if it's fantasy, you need to be struggling in some capacity.
Recite your incantation to light the candles on the wall instead of freaking turning on a light.
And something like major happens in the end, and I was like, I don't care. I did not care about a single character. Like, I never once was like, there wasn't even a side character that I was like, oh, the funny side character, or the friend, or the sister. Like, I did not like any of them. Something happens to someone, and I was like, okay. So, and I feel bad because Kaylee's on like book 3, book 4, I think is coming out in like another month or so. And I was like, oh, well, if I like it, I'll like try and catch up to you. We can read book 4 together. I regrettably told Kaylee that she's on her own. I am not. I'm not continuing. So sorry. Goodbye.
That's funny.
I feel so bad. I don't know. It's not like this author knows me. It's not like this author is going to be like, why did you do that to me? But inside, I feel so bad that I gave that a 2 stars. I'm so sorry. So now it's your turn. How'd your January go? What'd you read? I know you did some rereads.
I did.
And by some, I mean like more than half.
I did quite a bit of rereading. Actually, almost my entire month was rereads.
I know.
Now that I'm looking at it, like, holy crap. I'm very proud of myself. I finished 18 books this month.
Slay, bitch.
Patting myself on the back. Cue the applause sound bit.
Rubik's is amazing.
Okay,
I was your applause.
Moana.
Yes.
I love
We're
that.
Disney moms, okay?
I did 18 books. Now, before I get into my reread, I had a very wide range of books, I feel like.
You did.
That I read this month.
There's actually one book that you read that I'm so excited for you to say. So, how'd you start? Where'd you start with?
Well, I started with over like New Year's Eve. I had started the What Lies in the Woods that Tish recommended, and I read the right one this time.
I'm so proud.
Loved it. Did not predict the ending. I've talked about that one already. Then I read Wildfire and Daydream by Hannah Grace.
You did.
They were very cutesy, very fluffy.
So now that you've finished the Maple Hill series, of the 3, which one was your favorite?
I think Daydream.
Yes!
Yeah, I think Daydream. I had to think about it for a while because I really did. I liked Icebreaker a lot more than I thought I would. Very pleasantly surprised. Wildfire was really cute. Like, it was the cute summer camp romance fling that I did like that. But there was something about the awkwardness of the main characters in Daydream that I related to a lot.
Would you say you also related to the FMC being a people pleaser? A toxic, detrimental to her own health people pleaser?
I don't know why that was very aggressive.
And
I don't know why you're yelling.
I would like it on the podcast that I said.
Why do we need that on the podcast?
Because I said it 1,000 times that I needed you, even if you hated Icebreaker, I needed you to push through so that you could get to Hallie, so that you could see someone took pieces of you and put it into a character, because there are many traits that you and Hallie share. To the point that she's such a people pleaser that sometimes she over people pleases and she gets crippling anxiety, and I just feel like she's a perfect little bean and she has great representation.
Does that mean you're calling me a perfect little bean?
Yes. I've said this to you many times. That's why it is always said.
I just needed to hear that part. Okay. Yeah. That was the part I needed to hear, is that I am a perfect little bean.
You are a perfect little bean, but you are also a toxic people pleaser. So, yes, I am very happy that you loved that book.
I don't know why you're yelling, and that felt a little aggressive.
I love you.
Moving on.
Maybe you could take some of the things that happened for Hallie and instill in your own life and just learn that no is a full sentence.
Period.
What'd you read after Daydream?
Okay, so I was rebinding a couple of books that I had not read. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to read them because
you may as well. You're binding it.
Well, I mean, and the thing I like most about rebinding is that I'm designing the cover, right? Mm-hmm. So for House of Leaves, I very much, I guess for all of them, like for House of Leaves and then for a couple of the books I bound for the girls, like I felt like I was putting the way the book made me feel on the cover, you know?
Yes.
So I had to read the books to figure out how it made me feel to be able to design these covers for books that I was giving as gifts. Mm-hmm. So the first one I read of those two was The Perks of Being a Wallflower, because I rebound it for Mel for her birthday.
You did.
And I really liked it a lot. I really liked the feel of it. Book. It was, again, went in blind, which is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, really, really sad that I had no idea what I was getting into with this book. Because of how long it's been around. It's a movie with freaking Emma Watson in it, okay? How I...
That's always the thing. If I know someone who's seen the movie but hasn't read the book, I'm always like, think of how sad the movie makes you. Just be prepared that the book is probably going to be a little bit harder to read. Because there are things that they couldn't pull from the book to put in a movie. Yeah. So there are some extra sad things in the book.
There were some extra sad things. It affected me, but what I loved most about it was the narrative style. That it's all in letters. Felt like he was writing letters to me. I loved that so much, and I very much put that in the design for my cover for the rebind, and that was really it's weird to say it was enjoyable because of how sad so much of that book is.
Yes.
But it was beautiful. The next book I read was very surprising. I read Cold Sassy Tree by Olive Ann Burns. And it was also not what I was expecting. And it was very different. It was kind of like when you when you're eating like something salty, like chips or something.
Yeah.
And then you take a bite of fruit and you're like, wow, that is so sweet.
Yeah.
Like it's just a shock to your senses because it's so drastically different from everything else you've read. That I had that moment with Cold Sassy Tree. This is one of those books that is like old school, like I can't even remember the exact, like early 1900s. It is very Southern.
Oh, okay.
I mean, very Southern. Like it was typed so you would pronounce it the way you would have heard it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting, yeah.
It was a very interesting style. It was very funny and also incredibly fucked up.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those, like,
I'm sorry. You were rebinding this as a gift?
I was, because I was told it was their favorite, or one of their favorite books.
Actually, like my favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's a lot of fucked up Southern. It's another Southern. book. There's a lot of fucked up themes in that book, and it's my favorite. So
I mean, I get it, but I get why. Like, it's one of those books too that, like, the underlying message was really nice, and it was really well done. There were lots of funny moments. Also, this was from the viewpoint of an adolescent teenage boy, which I didn't realize going in because, we don't read summaries here.
No, couldn't be us. I go in blind.
Like, I mean, I'm reading about it. It's about some Cold Sassy is the town in Georgia that this place is set in. So I'm thinking I'm gonna read something like,
it's giving Tom Sawyer vibes.
Yeah, like something Tom Sawyer with like a little like Sweet Home Alabama romance kind of vibe.
Yeah.
No, that is not what I got at all. And I did like it a lot for what it was. It was just not what I was expecting, and it was like eating fruit after snacking on like salty chips and stuff. It was just a shock to my senses.
Damn.
But yeah, it was great. So I got those all out of the way. All great reads, by the way. But then I moved on to fantasy, and I did a full reread of both. I dove straight in. I did a full reread of the Black Witch Chronicles to prepare for Dryad Storm.
Question. Did any of your ratings change on the books from the first time you read them to now the reread? For the better or for the worse?
Yes.
Oh, no. Okay.
What I'm realizing is that
I actually now finishing think I might change my Black Witch rating for the first book.
Oh no, that was a good one.
No. Did I? Well, I was thinking upon further reflection, I'd probably give the first one like a 4.25.
Ooh.
But now knowing what I know and all the everything and how much I really do appreciate the first book, I would change that one.
I think I rated them all a little bit higher. I think Demon Tide, I took that one down.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time that I read it, I was in a different place.
Yeah.
So I had to change it a little bit.
I think that my biggest issue with Demon Tide is just how different it is from the previous 3 of the main plot, and even the 2 novellas. Like, it didn't follow the flow that I had with the previous books.
It definitely changed, yeah. And I'm not really sure where it was that it swapped completely. But she definitely did change things.
I think had she eased us into it, I maybe would have been less like, whoa, with Demon Tide. And then been prepared for when we got into the Dryad Storm. Yeah. But it was just like, here's Shadow Wand. I still enjoyed Shadow Wand. And then all of a sudden, Demon Tide is like completely different writing style, different POVs, different, like everything changed when she got, like there was no easing me into that. She just threw me in.
Yeah, we were thrown into the deep end on that one. My ratings did change, but I think I was just in a different place when I read them the first time. I still loved them. And I love them now. I think I may love the series more now after seeing like the completed message that came across. I think I told you more now.
I've told you that when we have a few podcast episodes ago, I said there were some that I actually want to reread this year because now knowing what I know now, I want to go back and reread to like see how I feel about it, knowing everything, knowing that there were Easter eggs and stuff. Like, I feel like the art of a reread is underloved.
It's true. I have never done a reread like that before. And it was really nice too. I really feel like,
yeah, because you got like a partial mini reread when I was going through the series because how much I was texting you.
I just dipped into them to like read parts of where you were at when you were asking me things. But this I like start to finish. Like I went through all 7 books pretty much back to back. The only break I took was to do a reread back to back of Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm.
Oh yeah.
I took a break to do that, and then I went back into Black Witch. And
which
I really
can we just say how genius we are for doing our rereads? Because have you seen all the Instagram reels and TikToks of people who did not reread Iron Flame, who were what is happening? Who is this? Like, when I was like, I'm so happy I reread it.
I was literally talking to my sister on the phone just before we started recording, and she was like, "Did you see what I sent you?" Because she was trying to get my Audible so that she could listen to Onyx Storm. And she was like, "Did you see what I sent you? One of my friends is reading Onyx Storm." It was like super confused. And I was like, "Oh, I don't." And I was like, "I don't know why you were confused," but I had also just
reread all of it. Yeah. Because I saw one.
So I wasn't confused.
I saw one because they hadn't done a reread, but they had read it the day of release, which is what I did, which is why I needed to reread Iron Flame. And they were like, "Who is this?" And they like did a list. One of the people that they didn't remember was Quinn. And I was like, "Oh, Beth, you're going to want to remember who Quinn is real quick."
Yeah. I really enjoyed the rereads, though, for both of these fantasy series. It was really fun to go through them back to back, start to finish. And I'm really glad that that's a decision I made for this year, is when I read a fantasy series, or any series, probably, I'm just going to go straight through back to back all of the books. Because it was more immersive. I didn't have to like fight to remember anything that I had read before.
That's my method with Zodiac Academy, and why I'm not going to do obviously all 24 back to back to back, because I think at that point I'm going to burn. That's too many books. You
out, yeah.
But with doing 2 or 3 a month, and then like I just did the 3, I honestly think my first 2 books of the next month are going to be more into the series again, and then I'll take a little bit of a break, because then I would have done 5. So I do see the benefit in reading a series back to back, because it does keep you in it. But when they're really long series, I do think breaks can sometimes be necessary.
Yeah, I think that
if you're a burnout bestie like me.
I think it was good that I took a break in the middle of the Black Witch Chronicles, because I took a break right between Shadow Wand and Demon Tide.
Genius spot to take a break.
It's a very like, there's a lot of upheaval going on.
Yeah. You know what's funny? That's what I did. I took a break between those because it
was like an emotional break that was needed.
Yeah, I had to. I was like, I finished Shadow Wand and I was like, I don't want to. I'm not going into Demon Tide yet.
I'm not ready. Because we knew it was going to get worse before it got better. Yeah. And it was like, it's already so bad. How can it get worse?
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I needed that emotional break. And I had a lot of fun doing Fourth Wing and Iron Flame again, because I did just the graphic audio while I was reading on my Kindle, and like for both books I did full graphic audio for both books, and that was so much fun for me. Like I had a lot of fun reading those. The fantasies were good, and I started, like, I'm on such a book hangover right now after finishing the Black Witch Chronicles.
That's why I'm actually so glad I had a book that I was already 60% through to go into after Dryad Storm, because I'm still processing some of the main plot points, like the main plot. Like, there's still parts of my brain that's like, but what if? Like, I'm still digging things up, so I was like, oh, thank goodness I had a book to just go into.
Yeah. So I've already processed, and so I pulled up a book that I had put on the TBR for the month just from spinning my wheel. It was one of the ones that came up, and it is not fantasy. It is historical fiction, and I'm going to finish it probably tonight. But I really like it. I'm reading The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna.
What a choice.
Plot point.
I see people sobbing to that book. You need to be on TikTok more, before they take it away again. You like sobbing. I see people sobbing to that book.
I have not heard anything about it, except I heard on.
I don't even know what it's about. I just know people sob when they read it.
I saw it on on Instagram, like people going through doing the yes, no, maybe, and it was a wholeheartedly yes.
Yeah.
And I liked the cover and was like,
the cover's pretty.
Okay. And that was one of the ones where sometimes I'll find those videos and I'm just like, my TBR is a little light. Why not? And so I'll just take screenshots of every book that they say yes to. And this was one of them. And I spun the wheel and it popped up, and it's really good so far. I'm waiting for it. It's just now kind of like picking up. But it's nice to be out of the fantasy worlds.
Yeah, I think my next one, I'm probably going to squeeze in something quick and easy that's not fantasy before I jump back into the Zodiac Academy world. But then I made sure my February TBR had little to no fantasy because I went so heavy with it in January that I'm like,
yeah, you did.
I gotta step
That's
back.
fair. That's fair. As long as you come back.
I will. My goal is to be very balanced with it, but I went so heavy this month that I'm like, February, we're gonna take it back. But
Guys,
just
that's
to rewind
the word
back
of the year. The word of 2025 is balance. If you haven't
Yes.
figured it out.
Just to rewind back so quickly. Just
Yeah.
What? It's a beautiful cover. What color is the cover of the Nightingale? What color is that cover again?
You know what? It's blue and yellow.
There are yellow, but the primary
A lot
color
of yellow. There's a lot of yellow. It's a very bold yellow, but yeah, it's blue. I mean, it's kind of like it's a rainy sky, so it's like kind of like a slate grayish
blue. Just if anyone wants us to read a book,
tell
sure
us
it has
it's
a blue cover.
Just tell us it's blue. It'll get red. That's how we do things, apparently.
So, with January wrapped, is there anything you have immediately needs to be read for February?
Only the things you told me I have to read.
For our book club stuff?
Yeah, I might do a reread of Powerless because that was one of the ones. All of the ones in November that I read, those were so rapid fire with lots of different fantasy worlds colliding for me.
Yeah.
So I feel like when I read the next book of any of those, because a lot of them were book one of a series, anything that I read out of those series, I'm probably going to reread the first book. I haven't decided if I will for Powerless yet, but I need to read Powerful and Reckless to get ready for Fearless. I'm excited to read Scythe and Sparrow.
I'm so excited to read Scythe.
I'm very excited.
So Mel and I had reflected on this. So in our journal, it's like what books are coming out this year. A lot of our series are ending this year. Like The Black Witch is now over. Ruinous Love trilogy is about to be over. Our Powerless thing that we just started is about to be over. I'm like, oh no. Like there's another series I have that's ending. It's ending next month. Like I'm like, oh my god, there's so many series ending this year. Teardrops.
I know. But you know what? That's gonna be kind of nice since Onyx Storm left us on such a fucking cliff.
And we may not even start climbing back up until 2027.
I know. And so we have lots of other series to finish.
Yeah, we can just finish off.
We have lots of other conclusions that we can have.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, I'm excited for those. We
have a Valentine's Day novella that we're reading by Kayla Gross. It's Puck Shy. I don't even for a millisecond think that I was going to let you forget that we were reading that. It's in the December one of those podcast episodes you said on the podcast that you would read the Valentine's novella with me.
I did. I just hate Valentine's Day so much. So the idea of a Valentine's Day novella is like, bleh.
I know, that's why I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited. So
I also want to read because remember I started in, I think Christmas, I started reading this series that was like fantasy novellas.
Yes? Was it the ones with like the Christmassy themes in it?
One of them was Christmas themed. It was because remember I was like, all Christmas books, and you were like, I'm so proud you got a fantasy one in there.
The one that was like Grimoire and Gingerbreads or something?
Yeah, Gingerbreads and Grimoire.
Yes!
Yes.
Don't ask me what I read in December, but I got you.
Yeah, exactly. You know my list.
Yeah.
Gingerbreads and Grimoire. So that was the second book.
Okay.
The first one was Sprinkles and Sea Serpents or something like that.
Yeah, I remember it was like something really cool fantasy and then some like cutesy word thrown on after or before kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. So there's one, I think there's technically another one that I think there's two that I've got to read because there's one that I think is more like New Year's-ish.
Okay.
And then the next one is Valentine's Day. And then the one after that is St. Patty's Day. So I'm going to read those.
Okay.
And those are going to be quick little reads because those are really short little novellas. Then I am planning to finish the Bonds That Tie series. And I've got to decide still what movie, TV series, book I want to read. I haven't decided yet what this month's is going to be, but I'm trying to do one a month.
Yeah. I'm really excited for my list for February because as you know, I started my list last week because I like to prepare. But then that way, if I forget anything, I just send it to our group chat and one of you reminds me. So for our big book club, the one that's like 30, well, and now there's 100 people in it, but we do themes for the read as opposed to a specific book. And so obviously for February, it's Black History Month. So our theme is POC authors. And I'm reading Queen Charlotte because it's the only Bridgerton book I've never read, because it technically was not a part of the Bridgerton series when she originally wrote it. It is based off the show. So Mel had brought it up and she's like, what about Queen Charlotte? And I was like, oh my God, I love that show. Good. I should read the book. So then of course I have Scythe and Sparrow. I'm very, very excited for. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of excited to go back into dark romance hockey for our TBR titties group chat with the fucking wrong number. So from what I've understand, it's not as dark as our last dark hockey romance, but they're more unhinged. Like they do crazier shit to be like, I love my woman kind of stuff.
Are we doing one book a month again, or?
Yeah, just one, because they're dark. So. But they're like interconnected standalone, so it's one of those ones that like you don't need. Yeah. It's not. There's no underlying plot.
Hold on, we're doing a series. I'm gonna have to read them back to back. Okay, but if they're interconnected standalones, that's probably fine.
Yeah, that's why I liked for that group us when we pick stuff that isn't a plot-driven series, that they're just internet, because then we can take the month break and be like, yeah, who cares what happened in the last one? I'm on to the next.
Yeah, it's fine.
And then I'm kind of excited for our little fantasy girlies one with the Heartless Hunter, because I've been wanting to read that for months.
I've had it on my TBR since October.
Yeah, I think that's when we added it because it's
back.
There's a witch hunter vibe to it, and I'm like,
well, and the second book is coming out this month. You know that, right?
Yes. So that's why I was like, that's perfect timing. That if we read Heartless Hunter this month, then we'll be ready next month for when the second one comes out. So it'll be right there. And then my family.
The second one is called The Rebel Witch.
Yes. So I was like, I'll keep the witchy vibes going all year round. You know me. Halloween never ends. And then in my book journal, there's a challenge where they give you weird little prompts. So January was a color, and I was like, perfect. I'm reading Onyx Storm. Like, nailed it. I didn't even have to go looking for that.
Right.
The buzzword for February was pronouns. And I was like, oh, that'll be easy. Do you know how hard it is to find the basic pronouns in a book title? So fucking hard. He, she, her. I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to go to different, expand my pronoun list. So we did the you, your.
That counts?
Yeah, for the possessive pronoun.
Okay.
So it was like, let me do a 2-for-1 special and get another book off my physical TBR. And I'm finally going to start the Addicted Calloway Sisters. I think it's 6 books series. And the book 1 is Addicted to You. I'm nervous to start it. So I've always known that this is a series I definitely want to read. However, the main topic is a lot of them are alcoholics or drug addicts or sex addicts. So I am prepared for this to be a heavy read. Ugh. So I might be crying in the club. Who knows? We'll see. And then of course,
are we thinking this is going to be like Boys of Tommen 2.0?
So yes, because the person who I got Boys of Tommen, Larry Reads, she has 3 series non-fantasy who are like her god tier, the perfect series.
And this is
Boys of Tommen, the Magnolia Parks, and Addicted Calloway. So I'm nervous.
Yeah.
And then in her god tier fantasy series are ACOTAR, The Fourth Wing, and Zodiac Academy. So I'll be reading 2 to 3 more Zodiac books. Yeah, literally, I'm just gonna go through Larry Reed's Goodreads. I'm just gonna read all her shit. So then I'm gonna try and do. I think I'm gonna aim for 3 for the Zodiac Academy because the next one's not that long, and by not that long, it's only 380 pages versus 600. So I'm like, maybe I can squeeze in 3 of those. And then I have my next 3 books that are on my list are ones that have technically been on my TBR since November. They just keep coming down. And eventually I'm going to read them because if I keep writing them down, eventually I'll get there. So when I say them, you're going to know it because you've put for our little slideshows, you've now done these books multiple times. Lilac, Antidote,
you still
and the Goddess of Spring. Nope. Those 3 books have been on my TBR since November, and they just keep wheedling down. I'm gonna get to them, I swear. Now, Tish read Lilac without me, so now there's that part of my brain that's like, oh crap, I have to read it because she read it without me. But then there's that other part of my brain that's like, She read it without me. So I just keep delaying it.
She's going to block you until you read it.
No, because she didn't love it.
Not
So,
this
or
one?
not
Oh,
that she
okay.
didn't not like it, but she didn't love it, where she's like, read this right now. So I think I'm safe on that one for a little while. And then Charlie Method by Elle Kennedy is coming out, which is the conclusion to her Campus Diary series, which is her 3rd series. And it's the conclusion, and it makes me very sad, but I'm very fucking excited for who it is because it's an MFM, and it's her first official MFM book. She's done MFM and MMs with another writer who she co-writes with occasionally, but she's never done it on her own, so I'm very excited. And then I have 5 Rena Kent books, because I told everyone that I'm going to finish out the Rena Kent world. One of them's a novella that's only 111 pages, so that's why I put 5, because I was like, that one's short. I will get through that in an hour.
A heartbeat,
yeah. So I was like, breeze through that one. So I have 5 Rena Kent books, so I can keep chucking away at that. Then I have Puck Shy for our V-Day novella that you're so excited about. And then I have a book that Kaylee asked me to read, which is The Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, who wrote the Serpent and the Wings of Night series. I have to double check. I don't know when this book came out in comparison to The Serpent and the Wings. They're 2 completely separate. Like, there's no crossover. Kaylee sobbed. And now I'm nervous because she asked me to read it. And she's like, oh, this is great. I'm having a great time. And then I shit you not even 20 minutes later, she's like, I'm not having a good time. And I was like, no, should I take it off? And she's like, no, you have to keep going. And I was like, I don't want to start it if you're sobbing. And
the fact that it was like whiplash, though.
Literally 20 minutes. If I pull up the time, it's not even 20 minutes of, this is great. I'm not having a good time. Oh, okay. And then my next 3, funny. I'm a little intrigued by my choices. So, as you know, I read a book called 1,000 Boy Kisses, which ruined my life for a solid couple days, where I couldn't see out of my right eye. I cried so hard. The sequel came out not too long ago, and I would like to read the sequel. So after I'm done reading Puck Shy with you on Valentine's Day, Mel and I are going to start 1,000 Broken Pieces on Valentine's Day, because what better way to rein in the day of love than with another book that's going to make me lose my mind and sob.
The fact that it's called 1,000 Broken Pieces.
Yeah.
It's like the author is telling you this is what you will be by the end of this book.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for it. And then my last 2 that are on my TBR that I'm absolutely going to get to are MMs, because, again, they have to be on there. I have to have at least one a month. The first one I'm excited to do because it was recommended to me with Fable, with their little, they go through your little AI thingy. Well, they pull the AI, so now I don't know how they do it, but they go through all the things in your want to read and they pluck a book out for you, and it picked In the Middle of Somewhere. And I've been seeing this cover pop up every once in a while, and I was like, I added this to my TBR 7 months ago. I don't remember why. I don't remember where I saw it, but we're going to do it. Fable told me to read it. I'm going to read it.
The mood quiz?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to read it. We'll see how it goes. It's not that long either. It's only a 350.
I think I'm going to do the mood quiz for mine and see what it picks for
I just
me,
did it for fun, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. We're going to see how we're going to test you, Fable. Let's see how your mood quiz picker is.
I think, though, before I do that, I need to add all of the things on my TBR. Because I have all of the things on my TBR on my want to read list in Fable. So now I'm thinking maybe I need to port all of those in.
I did a thing.
And then do the mood quiz and do it. What did you do?
So hold on. Let me say what my last one is, and then I'm going to tell you the thing I did, because I've been keeping it a secret. And then the last one, which I'm the most excited for, is I'm doing this as an audiobook. It's called My Pucking Crush. You know how I feel about Teddy Hamilton as a narrator. I worship the ground that man walks on. His voice is perfection. I also love Joe Arden, who is the male from The Butcher and Blackbird.
Yes, yeah.
Those 2 men are the narrators for this book. It's an MM hockey.
Oh, it's a duet?
Yes. And it's done as where Butcher and Blackbird, where they're going to be talking to each other in the chapter. And I'm so excited. I love both of these men. They do amazing. And they have an MM dark hockey romance where one is this douchebag hockey player and the other one's his bodyguard. And it's narrated by my 2 favorite male narrators.
Okay, that's going to be fun.
I cannot
wait to hear about it. That's going to be so much fun.
That honestly, of the whole list, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to read all these. No. I can't wait to listen to this one. I'm gonna do it on a time when I can just sit in my bed, put my feet up, make some tea, and I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna have a great time. I'm so excited. So the thing that I did that I've been waiting to share with you, I don't know if you look at Goodreads anymore, but I had a 717 TBR. I now have a 393 TBR. I weed whacked my TBR, to be realistic, because there were times that I would scroll. So it happened when I was scrolling to find the pronoun book that I was like, I'm never going to read all of these. And it's not because I'm not going to get to them. Like, honestly, with the pace that I read, in a couple of years, I probably will hit that many and I could read all of those. But I've changed since I've added some of those books.
Yeah.
I don't want to read some of them. I've never seen some of them since the day I added them. So I was like, we're gonna clean it up in here. And I went down to 393, which is still a very high number. I remember I told Kaylee's brother Ryan, I was like, guess what? I went down to 393. And he's like, it's disturbing to me that you think that that's such an easy number. And I was like, Ryan, it was 717. Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally less than half. Like,
yeah,
for you,
I cut that bitch
huge.
down. And then I was like, on Goodreads, I did that. And then on Fable, I erased the list. And now my to-be reads are only going to be what I wanted to read in that month, because I wanted to make it where it's just the ones I wanted to read. So that way, if I do really like In the Middle of Somewhere and I want to pluck something, the mood reader thing only has to pick through like these 23 books that I have as my options for the month versus 717.
That's a really good idea.
Because my thing is, like, if In the Middle of Somewhere is just not my vibe, then that's my fault, because I had that poor thing pick out of 700 books. So, and I feel like this month is a really good variety of stuff that is me. Like, there's fantasy, there's there's happy hockey, there's scary hockey, there's Rena Kent. So, like, I feel like this is a very good mix of who I am as a reader.
Rounded TBR.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I'll try and do the mood reader off of these and then see what it gives me. We're testing the waters.
I'm excited about our TBRs.
I'm really excited.
They're going to be fun.
TBRs.
I'm probably going to add a few more as I'm making my list, because that's what I do. Like, I have like a general idea, like ones that I really want to finish. And then I just kind of tack on a few more. And hell, I read 18 this month, so I could
honestly, if you look at my January TBR, yeah, you have a wide range. If you look at my January TBR, like, I almost followed mine perfectly, but I only had one Zodiac Academy book for January because I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, and then I read three. Yeah, so
I've been excited to start Zodiac Academy. I just feel like I keep pushing it off because of other things that some people are telling me I need to read first. So I've been putting that one off, but I have the dramatized audio for the first two Zodiac books, and I'm really looking forward to finally, like, I feel like now I can finally get to them because you're reading them. So I'm probably gonna do one of those this month.
I also did the dramatic audiobook, and I've never done a dramatic audiobook, and I did it for the first one.
What did you think?
It was an experience.
It's an experience.
It was.
Can you just a second, like, remember I told you the ACOTAR books that I was listening to in my car and in my bathroom, not on headphones.
I'm just gonna warn you.
You see now what I mean?
I'm just gonna warn you, the second book of Zodiac Academy.
Headphones only. Yeah, no, I've been burned. I am definitely only doing dramatic audio in headphones from now on. For sure.
I have never been so uncomfortable listening to an audiobook in my life. And I listen to audiobooks. I'm not new to this. I read a fuck ton of smut. It doesn't faze me. But you know what? When someone's in your ear dramatically, no. I felt like you. I was like, where is my blanket?
I know, like, cover my head.
It was, that was an experience.
Now you see what I mean, okay?
Now that I know, my brain immediately was like, oh my god, Rubik's did this with the Empyrean series and ACOTAR. And I know what chapters are in those books. Like, oh, okay.
It's an experience. It's a choice.
It is.
You know what? It's a choice we have to own because otherwise it's embarrassing.
But you know what's I appreciate actually, even though I didn't love it as much as a regular audiobook, because at some points it was hard to follow. Because I also like to read, like I immersive read, so I listen and read. But it got hard because obviously they skip so much of it.
They do, yeah. They skip anything that's like any sounds, like sound effects that they put in. They skip the description of them, so they
and there's no one's like
they skip.
Yeah, and it's like if someone else is talking, it's not like Darcy said. It's you don't need to because the voice actor said it, so they're not going to then say it. So like that, I had to get used to. But what was kind of fun for when I was done with the first one with the dramatic audio, now I'm reading, I hear the actors in my head as I'm reading because they don't have dramatic audios for the rest of the books. Yeah. But I hear their voices still in my head. And I'm like, wait, I kind of appreciate this because there are certain characters that have accents that you don't know that they have accents right away. Yeah. But because of the dramatic audio, I know that they have accents and I know what they should sound like. And I'm like, wait. I kind of like having it because I'm like, now I can hear them in my head.
It's kind of like when you're reading something that you've seen on screen. You see the actor when you're reading. And so if they make some kind of snarky statement, you can see that actor's facial expressions. Like, I love that. So,
it was definitely an experience. It's not one that I'll probably be repeating often. I won't reach for the dramatic audios often.
Oh, I always reach for the dramatic audio.
It is a fun experience now having those voice actors' voices in my head because now I'm like reading the dialogue differently. I'm noticing because obviously there are audiobooks. None of them are on sale, and I am not spending $20 for the next 20 books. No, thank you. So
that's a lot.
No, not a chance. So
just as a side note, if you are a movie watcher that is trying to get into reading, try the graphic audio. Just dramatized audio, graphic audio, either one that you see. I've seen them called both. If you are a movie watcher trying to become a reader, go for the graphic audio.
I will say, I'm not an imagery reader. Like, I very rarely, like, really, truly picture stuff in my head.
Yeah.
I did. You can't help it with the dramatic because it's like watching a movie, but your eyes are closed.
Exactly. That's what the tagline for it. It starts off, it's like, graphic audio, a movie in your mind.
It was so dramatic.
It's so accurate, though.
It is, though.
It's so accurate. Like,
because I don't.
The only way I could ever describe it. It really feels like you are watching a movie in your head.
And I'm kind of glad that I did because honestly, the world of Solaria is so intense that I'm like, oh, you know what? I think the best way to start Zodiac Academy is with that dramatic audio because it just paints the picture of the world. Because it's such an in-depth world at first. Yeah. Oh, I definitely have. So I will say it was an experience, but it's helping me in my future reads.
There you go.
I don't know that I'll do it again though.
Now, what does it do for you when you get to the smutty scenes?
I want to run away. It makes me really question my type of reading. Like, why do I read these things? Because what?
Finally.
You know what it also made me think of? What are the actors doing when they have to, like, do they see each other?
It makes you ask yourself the questions I've been asking you for the past year and a half.
But my immediate
Taylor, what are you reading?
Was like, do you think these two actors are recording at the same time? Or are they just like record, and then loop it together? Like, are you making eye contact while you're recording this dramatic scene? Like, I want to know what went into that. That's where my
awkward situation I could ever think of.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost worse than being actors in a movie. Because at least you have an intimacy coordinator for those things on a movie set. Like, what are you both just in a recording booth and you can hear the other? Like,
I could never. Because I'm pretty sure the way that they do it is they just record it. Mm-hmm. If it was a situation where they're listening to the other actor while they're recording their own,
saying.
I am 12 in those situations. Same. There's no way that I could hear another voice actor saying something like incredibly
I literally
sexy and not
wouldn't be
like,
we were texting, was it yesterday or today? And I was like, me being a 13-year-old boy giggling because someone said the word nipple. And I was like, because the book we were reading doesn't like, there's no descriptors, like it's a closed door thing, like there's not like heavy. So when someone said something that I was like at a like not it wasn't using a like that kind of like someone literally was changing and they saw the nipple and I was cackling like a 13-year-old boy. I was like he said nipple.
I was doing that with all of the innuendos.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, how do the dramatic audio people do this?
I could not. That's one job I can cross off that I will never be.
Yeah, that's not on my bucket list. I'm good. I don't need to know that experience. I just want to know. I have questions, but past that, no. No, thank you.
No, thank you. I don't want to try it.
Nope.
I will just get my popcorn and watch from afar.
And I'll sit at home and enjoy the audiobook or cringe at the audiobook. You can record for me.
I will say I have seen on, I can't remember which platform it is now, like YouTube or Instagram or something, like shorts of a voice actor like narrating scenes like that, where she like you know, like she reacts.
There's one.
Like, sorry, we're gonna cut that. It's fine.
There's one woman that I follow who she actually just won a Goodreads choice last year because she was the audio narrator for Funny Story by Emily Henry. And it was similar vibes where like she'll show you her bloopers of recording and she'll say something that like the FMC will say that's like very badass and snarky, and she'll nail the line, hit the ending and go right on. Like she does her own commentary to what she's reading. I'm like, I
saw one more of this person that I saw. She was like, she started to read it and then someone was like, oh, okay. And then had to redo the line because it shocked her while she was reading it. I was like, girl, that would be me. Every single book. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you enjoyed the vibes. If you want to keep up to date with us, make sure you're following us on Instagram.
If you want to catch us live on our Twitch, we're going to be talking about the Empyrean series very soon because we have a lot of friends who have read it and we all just need to deep dive because Onyx Storm sent us Spiraling, but we're going to start with Fourth Wing. So if you haven't read it, catch up.
This is your chance.
Want to talk. Yeah, we want to chat. We need to dive in deep, folks, because if we're not getting our next book till 2027, we're just going to yap until 2027. Yeah.
Till next time, you're awesome. You're doing great.
We love you. Now stop stalling and go read that book. Bye.
Bye.